Hey guys, welcome to another Consult ROI podcast. I am here with Danny. Um, and if you guys are first joining us today, this podcast is pretty much about people that are trying to better themselves both in their career, their business, their life, and elevate everything. So it's about consulting the ROI or return on investment for your time, your money, your life in general, and getting the most out of it that you want. It is your life. You get to choose how you want to live it. This is just us sharing our experiences and business and personal life, what has won, what has done really well for us, what we've seen manifest and turn out really well for other people, and what people have as a priority. So occasionally we will have guests on here that do share their experience of how they accomplished and got to where they are. Danny is fairly accomplished as well in his own right, as far as a sales leader and influential leader and speaker in that realm. I do run a couple different companies and have had my fair share of success in that realm. He has experience leading teams and handling that aspect, and obviously doing the sales, the relationships, and that, which is why I always value his expertise in a lot of those realms. And I'm very much more of the organizational, the structure, the strategy, the vision, and that side of things. So with that said, let's get into it. Today we are talking about how do you maintain momentum after the New Year's resolutions. Everyone has New Year's resolutions they do, but typically they only stick with it a couple weeks, and that's it. You may, by the time you are listening to this, you probably have already fallen off the bandwagon. So let's be honest here, and it's not something that you should knock yourself for, but at the same time, you need to hold yourself accountable to. It's the same thing. Like, things will never change until you have the desire or the pain enough to be willing to change. So the only way that you can do that is by going back to our previous episodes where you're mapping out your mind, you're creating a strategy, and then you have consistent action towards that. But if you don't have that map drawn out for yourself, how do you plan on following something? Usually people fall off because they're like they instantly will start having all sorts of excuses. Oh, I don't have time. I have all these things that happen. I have health issues that came up. I have X, Y, and Z. All these things that are holding me back from accomplishing what I'm trying to achieve. And I've done that before, but instead of thinking on what's stopping you from doing something, you figure out how can you do something, and everything pivots on that moment to say, I know there's plenty of reasons why I can't do this. How can I do this? How can I make sure that this happens today, that I honor my commitment? Or how do we get back on track and get these things and stop them from derailing me moving forward, right? If you don't have that strategy, if you don't have that thought process to think those things through, then yeah, you're going to keep getting stuck and you'll start getting momentum. And that's the other thing too, is a lot of the time you will burn out essentially, and that's the reason you'll give up, because you pretty much give it 110% or 200% or whatever, and you realistically did not have the capacity to do that in the first place. You're already overstretched, and because of that, you will have that again, all your efforts go downhill. It's
Like that
just it's
burnout.
the same. For example, if I go to the gym and I instantly go to the heaviest crazy weight ever, right? And I don't warm up and I don't do these things, these prerequisites, and I don't scale up as I'm doing that and stretch and do these things that I'm supposed to, chances are I'm going to tear the muscle and I'm going to feel like it, and it's not going to hit me then. It's usually 2 days after. You feel it in 2 days, and that after that 2 days, and that you feel like garbage. Your body is shut down. It's completely fatigued, and you're like, I'm done. like, I can't do this. Like, I sucks. Everything hurts to move. So
I've
yeah,
experienced this. Yes. In fact, it was actually 2009 in February. I was on a business trip, went to Chicago at the McCormick Convention Center there. I was, with some people that were kind of health nuts and stuff. So I'm like, yeah, I'll go to the gym with you guys. Why not? And I did everything that they did. Big mistake, because I'm not a health nut. I'm not at the gym
rookie
or
mistake, man.
oh my gosh. The next day, and not only that, our hotel room was literally probably like a mile of a walk in between. If you've ever been to the McCormick Center, it's massive. And it was probably about a mile to the from the convention hall to the hotel room. I about died every day. The next day, like I literally could barely even move. I easily did everything that they did. You know, we weren't like going to the heaviest weight or whatever, but I simply did their workout routine. Some push-ups, some pull-ups, some running, some this and that, you know, sit-ups, like whatever it was. And then the next day, I I about died. Like I almost couldn't get out of bed. So it's like I wasn't prepared for that to begin with. I didn't ramp up. I didn't do any of those things that you're touching on of just getting
Yeah,
into the
I mean,
race, right?
like a lot of people think that they need to feel it the day of in order to get the full workout, which I think is a fallacy. And it is. But the reality is we all want to get the results overnight, and we aren't willing to understand that everything takes time. Um, and you can do it's not like you can't go from being overweight 300 pounds to slimming clear down to 180 pounds and being ripped in 6 8 months or a year. But you need to take that full time to do it, because otherwise, when you just try to rush it and everything, what you do is drastically lose the weight up front, which means that you gain it even further or quicker,
Back.
because you didn't lose it correctly. You didn't build habits and
Yeah,
something
exactly. Habits.
sustainable to do that, right? You
Yeah,
could
it's
starve
it,
yourself and go on a crazy diet and everything and lose the weight like that. But that's not going to give you long-term results. So understand, if you're struggling in that, it's because you are in the thick of it. You are actually going through the grind, and you just need to figure out that routine that you can consistently do. It's the same thing for me, and that when I do social media, um, I will usually do like 10 posts in a row, get a bunch of posts done, and then I will stop and everything, because I'll be so burnt out from dealing with social media in general.
I feel you there.
And then few months and everything, no posts, no nothing. But that's next to impossible to build any momentum or anything doing that.
Right.
It's the
And it's
same
like
reason
Gary
we
V.
try to do
I
the
was at a
podcast every week.
recent conference with Gary V, and he said, "You're now into day trading your time, day trading your influence." And what he meant by that is, you legit, if you want to be somewhere on the social media sphere, you've got to post 8 to 10 times a day, 8 to 10 times a day. So not only just like once a day for like a week or two, 8 to 10 times a day. And unless you have
So that's,
the
he
things
is
in
referring
place
to
to get there.
personal brand, and that
Sure,
so
sure.
that
Yeah,
is
yeah, yeah,
where
exactly. Right. Like for your personal
I'm
branding,
not saying you need
influencing,
to do that for your business. I was beating myself up about that as well, because I
because it's
thought,
easy to. You see what other people are doing, you're like, oh my gosh, I am so far behind. So yeah, you're exactly right. You can beat yourself up over it.
yeah. So when it comes to personal brand, and that you want to post a lot of things that are just important to you, what you stand for, what you believe. Obviously, you saw earlier my Facebook posts of my Belgiums and my Dutchies on their treadmill, right?
Yeah. Yep. Yeah.
So that's part of it. That's part of the things just involving people in your life. Um,
And what you're
and
doing
then
there
doing the,
is you're building your know, like, and trust factor. People get to know you. Oh, he's an animal guy, right? He's keeping his animals healthy and stuff like that, right? Like, has nothing to do with your business or anything like that. You didn't say, hey, buy my crap and I'm going to show you like what I do with, how to keep my dogs healthy. That wasn't the purpose. Your purpose was simply, I'm I'm
I
trying
do
to
not
just live
have a
my life,
company that does
right?
dog food, but I might. With how much food they go through, that actually would not be a bad
Yeah, yeah,
idea.
maybe you could be an affiliate for one or something. But right, you're building that know, like, and trust factor is the biggest thing out of that for sure. Of just people getting to know you.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's where the 8 posts come in, where it's just simple comments, simple things, and then consistently doing that to where people are always excited to learn what you're doing next. Like I get a lot of people that are excited to see kind of some of the 3D model projects that I do. I have other projects in it where people enjoy watching the kids, um, or when I go dirt biking or scuba or some of the adventures in it, which is not as often as I would like anymore. Um, but I mean that's the reality of situation in life. Um, and there is a priority and there is a hierarchy, right? I need to know that everything that does not serve my intention needs to be kind of cut out, regardless. And that even if I want to or eventually will or anything else. And that's why I've had to shut down certain companies because they did not serve my intention or my goals or focus of that exact moment. Right. It's not saying that I can't get to that point, but it's like, okay, in order for me to build this empire to where I can hire or, get 500 employees and provide jobs and livelihoods and a great environment that they are looking forward to coming to work. And it's no longer work, it's a family of people that we get along and just care about each other. And again, uh, have each other's best interests out to look out for them. In order for me to do that and scale up to that, I have to create stable, consistent revenue, meaning I need to focus on the main revenue streams to stabilize those. And then through these actions, which as soon as I break those down, I can break those down into daily tasks. As soon as I have those daily tasks, that's what I'm focused on. Anything else is going to be cut out. That doesn't mean neglect family or anything else either. Sometimes they don't get as much attention as they would like or anything. But if as long as you take the time to explain, and as long as you also take the time to give
Bring
them
them along.
quality time, what like it might be sometimes in that just being able to um, just talk to them real fast, tuck them in bed, and give them a kiss goodnight or something. That's sometimes all it is, right?
Right. Absolutely. In fact, my little guy, he'll always ask me if I'm going to go to an activity with my other kids or whatever in the evening, Dad, are you going to be back in time to put me to bed? Right. Like it wasn't like, Dad, spend 6 hours with me. I just want to be with you by my side. It was just like, he just wants that small moment. Right. And so it's, yeah, it's communicating and then,
Just
trying to be
simple
there.
thought of feeling cared and loved for.
Yeah, exactly. Absolutely.
And that's really
So
what all of us, our deep desire is. I know that sounds mushy and awful and everything else, but reality is that is what it is. Everybody just wants to feel loved and they want to feel like they belong.
yeah, they belong, they matter. Absolutely. So,
So going back to the main topic, so how do you keep consistency with it? A lot of this is the foundational work of how you get to that plan in the first place, how you set those goals in the first place. And if you've already fallen off the bandwagon, it's because you didn't set good enough game plan that you could actually execute on, and you don't hold yourself accountable to the plans you set. So until you are willing to hold yourself accountable and realize that you are the biggest thing that's holding yourself back, there's not any social structure, there's no government, there's nothing that is holding you back from where you want to be. It is you, 110% you. Like
yeah,
there's people that have been able to build empires and everything, even when being ruled by a dictator. Um, and sometimes they lose their shirt 10 times over. And there is sometimes things outside of our control. That doesn't mean that those things don't happen. What it does mean, though, is when those things happen, instead of throwing yourself a pity party, you pivot.
yeah.
You
Pivot,
fix.
pick up the pieces, find the places that you were able to learn and grow. And that's to me is it that I think often gets overlooked is the experience and that experience slash education that came from it. A friend of mine, his grandpa always said that education's expensive no matter how you get it, and that's exactly what. But if you go into it or you come out of it and you can look back and be like, you know what, it could have been an epic failure, complete failure, but what would I have had to pay somebody to learn those lessons that I did coming out of it? And so I think it's only a failure if you didn't learn, if there was no lessons coming out of it. That would be, to me, that would be the failure out of it.
Yeah, absolutely. So again, it comes down to what do what do you want to be able to come out of this, out of this life and everything being? For me, I used to again look at a lot of the things that I went through as a like a crutch or this like something to be ashamed of. But again, I've kind of come to the conclusion and reality that where I'm at now is a direct result of all those hardships and experiences, and it's also what has given me this like substantial confidence to know that I could lose my entire ass today and I will still figure out a way to rebuild it all tomorrow.
Yeah, absolutely.
But
Right. Like because of those things that you've put into place, those lessons that you've learned, that experience that you've got, that knowledge that you've gained, you absolutely can. You're building that confidence and putting these things in place. So you could hit the reset button and go.
I know we've talked about this before and everything. Like, yeah, I don't take. I'm not as risk adverse and everything now, or risk inclined, if you will, um, because of the fact now I have kids and other things that make it to where I obviously don't necessarily want them to experience homelessness or other things, right? Because when I was a young single guy and didn't care, I would bet everything every single time I went 110% in, right? Um, and I extended myself probably a lot further than I should have. But and granted, I probably would have learned a lot of the lessons a lot sooner if I had gone into it with that mentality, as opposed to getting my ass kicked to the curb repeatedly and my teeth stomped in and thinking, man, I just suck at life or suck at this and everything else. Um, or I could never get the validation because I would thrive, I would kill it, I would crush those goals and everything else. And then all the people that I was trying to do it to prove it for, there was nothing but crickets, right? So I was doing a lot of the things for the wrong reason. And I would also look and challenge you, is your New Year's resolution for you or is it for
The
for
haters
somebody else?
for someone else. Right. Doesn't have to be a hater, right? Like where's that motivation coming from?
Are you trying to please your parents? Are you trying to please your spouse? Or are you trying to do all these other things? Because quicker you can be honest with yourself and say, this is what I want, this is what I'm doing, and this is how I'm going to accomplish it. Because there's a lot of people probably that crush your dreams, they piss on them or whatever else. But the reality is you probably haven't shown any substantial proof that you actually have the ability to follow through on any of your goals or dreams, which is why nobody believes or trusts that you're actually going to be able to do it. Nobody trusts you that you're going to actually be able to follow through on it. So it's natural that everybody's going to be skeptical of it. Like, again, do you have any idea how many people condescend to me and tell me I need to go out and get a real job and blah, blah, blah. And then they realize that I've made more than them. And magically all those little voices went away.
Right, exactly. And it's like, what is a real job anyway? Right. It's like, because I mean, there's speaking of risk and things there, like there's risk in anything, right? Like
There's a
you
risk in a
could,
W-2. It's just like, for example, I trusted myself more than I did somebody else making business decisions. And that isn't for everyone. Like some people, they trust themselves in their ability to do a job better than they do running a company, and they don't like or want the responsibility of having multiple people's jobs on the line because of their actions.
which is fine, right? Like if that's
I
their thing, that's the jam, right?
Yeah, it is not fun. Like it is not fun. Like there was a time where I had to lay off a substantial amount of our employees. Like, and it was because I put too much eggs in one basket. That's that's the reality. that was a lesson I needed to learn. And I needed to learn the hard way,
Wow.
apparently. But it wasn't a fun conversation because, again, we went from telling everybody that they were going to get raises and everything else to, hey, like, best of luck. I don't know what to tell you, and I did feel personally, and I was personally responsible because at the end of the day, is my company, right? Even though it was somebody else's actions, they broke contracts. I could say I had legal case and everything else. It doesn't matter at the end of the day. It still is my choices, me running the company, which makes me responsible. Um, and at the end of the day, with that said, I have to take that and face that, and I had to step in and be like, hey, I I feel like I owe you at least the privilege of saying, like, here, let me get you something, that a job that's just as good, if not better. So I actually made calls to a lot of different competitors in each of those employees areas, and
Which is something
had,
that you didn't have to do, but it was the integrity that you had with yourself, right? And trying to, you know, assist in any way possible during a difficult situation, it sounds like.
yeah, I felt personally, and it was personally responsible for my staff and their well-being. And while they didn't need to, I wanted to make sure that they could have an environment that they thrived in. And so I knew there was, again, some competitors that, while we do compete, we are still good friends. Um, we can still have
A civil
compete
conversation
and
and
civil conversation or anything else, and then
an
still have
abundant
success.
mindset, right? That
Yeah,
there's room enough for everybody.
yeah. I mean, there is, to a certain degree. At the end of the day, there's only so many bigger contracts out there, especially here in the United States. Um, Only so many franchises and that, so you're taking a chunk of the pie regardless of how you look
Sure.
at it.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, it's like, hey, if somebody beats me, then, like, I'm not going to be bitter and discontentful about it. I'll be like, hey, yeah, you beat me, you won this round, and that you might have won the battle. You're not going to win the war. Um, and hopefully, in that, when I can scale, like, some of those guys, um, like, we've had some of those guys come back, and there's other guys that are doing way better now. And they're thankful at least for those opportunities, which is great.
Yeah.
Um,
And what do they say? You're not starting over, you're starting from experience, right? So, I mean, from across the board, right? Just getting that experience and then applying that. And
well, I'm just glad that I was able to, honestly, that was a blessing, frankly, that I was able to, because that provided me so much more peace of mind, knowing that a lot of my guys, like, had job offers and that with decent wages and that before everything went south, right? Like, I literally had them, it's like, hey, look, I have some guys that are great, they're highly skilled and everything. I already know you're short staffed. Can you extend an offer to them? And luckily, most of them trusted my word enough to be like, yeah, dude, we could use them.
that's awesome. Very cool. Yeah. I mean, it speaks a lot about you and, you know, how you're taking care of people and stuff there. So, it just kind of reminded me too, actually, unrelated but related, is that someone says that you know, one of their tactics when they are renting out one of their properties is that they'll follow the people that are checking out the property out to their car, and they'll just kind of like peek at their car, and if their car is completely trashed, got, you know, papers all over the windshield and the dashboard and crud all over everything and stuff, they're like, that could be an indication of how they might treat your property as well. But you know, just unrelated but related, but like, you know, how you're treating your, you know, employees and stuff as employees, and then, you know, when you had to find, you know, other opportunities for them, you know, or when they had to go find other opportunities, and, you know, all you did to help take care of them, keeping your house clean inside and out, so to speak.
Well, I mean, how you take care of your car, it usually will manifest itself in your house. Because I guarantee you have a messy car and papers all over and fast food wrappers and everything else. Chances are you're going to have garbage all throughout the house. Like, that is a very transferable, like, realization and just reality of the situation. Um, So I get that, and that's actually a very smart idea. I look at also how people handle themselves,
Mhm.
and
And that's what I do
because it's
too. Yeah.
easy to put a facade. Just like when you're dating again, it's very, very easy for people to put like fake it. They can fake actions, they can't fake reactions.
That's
So
big.
so I would actually look at it. So like there was here's something. If you want to truly find out if somebody's good person or not, take them through a poorer part of town and that where there's a lot of homeless or anything else, and see how they treat the people that they see as um, that a lot of people deem as inferior.
Mm.
Do they step in and help? Do they offer? Do they, if they see somebody fall, do they try to do their best in that to make fun of it, or do they mock them? Do they turn their nose up at them? Do they do all these other things to basically dehumanize them? Because how they will react in those situations is pretty much how your entire marriage is going to end up. Like it's how they're going to treat you, and given enough time.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like, tell me everything need to know about you without telling me everything I need to know about you, right?
But a lot of people will instantly. I already know there's probably like 50 different men or women that are really like, oh no, that's not how it works, and that's ridiculous and everything. It's completely different things. Well, again, you get to see somebody when they're struggling. And if you can't respect somebody when they're struggling with their own mental demons and everything else, what makes you think that they are going to respect you when you struggle?
Yeah, absolutely.
And what makes you think too that they're going to respect other people or be understanding and that to your things that are coming up? And that's something for yourself. If you're the one turning your nose up at those people that are struggling or going through stuff, I wouldn't say that you're any better.
Sure.
I'd say that you're the problem at that point.
Yeah, absolutely. So,
Anyways,
yeah, so it's important to kind of think about, what, what are your motivators, getting into, things like a first of a year and some of that motivation and kind of writing on that, which is a lot of fun. But then when all the fanfare and everything is worn off, do you have that recipe for success that's going to keep you going? So that when it does kind of get boring, mundane, quiet, no one else around, no one else to motivate yourself but you, do you have some of these habits and things like that put into place, or did you burn yourself out, just hitting the ground running full speed into the wall at first, or did you build up that momentum to be able to have that
yeah,
resilience?
is the foundation and game plan to make sure that you can be successful. That is
Yep.
really literally the fundamental key. So if you've already fallen off the bandwagon of your New Year's resolutions, again, just look at what your game plan is, what your mindset is, who you are doing them for, and then reapproach that, rebuild it, and then execute.
Yep.
And we hope that you gain all the success that you deserve. We truly mean that. I'd love to see you guys thrive in that. I'd love to hear and that, 5, 10 years down the line and that when your life is in a whole different, better place. But I'm actually going to challenge you guys right now to record a video of yourself right now, where you're at, where your goals are, what your biggest struggles are in that, and then take the actions that me and Danny have said here. And in 5 years, do the same thing, or even every couple months, do the same thing, just as accountability check. And it'll almost be like before and after pictures, even with fitness.
Yeah,
See how it
absolutely.
pans out. So,
Yeah,
all
do
right.
it.
All right, guys. Anything else that you want to add, Danny, before we close this out?
Just kind of reminded me of thinking about kind of new year and new me, all this stuff. It's like new year improved me, things like that. Recently talking to someone from Edward Jones, a financial place, which by the way is not financial advice. I'm only licensed to drive a car. But one of the things that he always kind of points out is he says, if you look at the stock market for all its history back to the Great Depression, the early 1900s and things. He says that there's usually, out of a 5-year period, there's usually 4 up and 1 down. And, maybe what does that look like for you in your personal life and the new year and things? I kind of think of like, if you listen to any podcast out there at the end of 2019, I mean, it was like full momentum, blue skies ahead. you couldn't be stopped. Like, it was so much positivity and greatness going around that 2020 couldn't have ever been a blip on anybody's radar of how things went and stuff. And so there's been some kind of like ups and downs and rockiness and stuff. But as I kind of think of, you know, out of the 5 years, you know, 4 are going to be up, 1 might be down. You know, if you haven't had that up,
you only have 2 up for every 1 down. That still is a 50%
that's
return.
still progress, right? So if you're not into that,
Even if you're
momentum,
1%,
let's make this
say
happen.
for instance, you are 1% better every single day, just 1%. That is minuscule. Just for example, like keeping your house 1% cleaner every day, that's nothing, right? That's like cleaning one area or sweeping just one part of the house.
Exactly, right? Like just one tiny thing.
Yeah. So if you can do that, even if you have a 20% loss at some point in the year, every single year, or maybe a couple of those, you're still over 300% better every single year.
Absolutely. And it's just a little adds up to a lot. So that's what I got.
Anyways, again, thank you guys. Like, share, and then let's see your journey. So take care and have a great day.
All right. Peace.